So, A Different Man is the story of Edward, a struggling actor with neurofibromatosis that manifests as a disfiguring facial condition. Shout out to IMDb for helping me out with this, by the way. There's a lot of words in here. Edward is an aspiring actor, but obviously with a large facial disfiguration, he's maybe not having the attention and success he's looking for, and he's rather closed off until he meets a very kind neighbor across the way named, I have her name right here, Ingrid. Ingrid totally sees Edward for the person he is and gives him attention in a way that he doesn't often feel. One day, Edward is in his apartment. An accident happens, and he ends up going to the hospital and becoming a part of this experiment to test out a new gene editing medication that might be able to help with his condition. And before you know it, bing, bang, boom, Edward looks exactly like Sebastian Stan. Through some horrifying effects, basically his additional skin peels away, and the man underneath is Sebastian Stan. We jump to a few years later, and Edward is now Guy. He's the same person, but he is acting like a totally different man. No pun intended. He tells everybody that Edward is dead, that is not a person anymore, and that Guy is the only person who's here. He's confident, he's successful at work, and he runs into Ingrid one day, his old neighbor, right, who thinks that Edward is dead, had died in an accident, and realizes that she's hosting a play about their life in the apartment, right? How she met this guy named Edward, and she's going to have two actors playing the two of them, and this relationship they kind of developed, and he wants to play himself since he was an actor as Edward. So Guy tries out, gets the role of Edward, and everything's going good, and he's getting his relationship back with Ingrid until Oswald walks into the room. Oswald, played by Adam Pearson, a man who has neurofibromatosis and has a very similar look that Edward had at the beginning of the feature. This is a real person. Adam Pearson really has this in real life. This is not a makeup effect. He meets Guy and Ingrid. Ingrid immediately falls for him and thinks he's amazing. He ends up taking Guy's role in the play. Guy cannot handle the fact that he is being upstaged by somebody who has the thing that he used to have, and it creates a lot of drama in a very interesting movie called A Different Man. I've talked way too much about this. Andy, what'd you think?
So interestingly enough, I started this movie and I watched about 10 minutes of it, and I was really distracted, and I just stopped because I was like, I'm not into this. I'm going to watch it a different time. And this time around, I actually watched the whole thing, and I really enjoyed it. I was surprised how much I did. I'd heard a lot about it. I heard great acting from both Adam Pearson and, of course, Sebastian Stan. It's really funny inadvertently. Edward is he's very clumsy. He's very timid, and he's very unsure of himself. And it reminded me of The Substance because he has a lot of self-loathing, which he assumes is all because of how he looks. But Edward's got problems, but beside that, he's got a lot of things wrong on the inside, not just as he perceives the outside. Even when he gets this better face, some of his perceived problems go away. He seems to be much better with women. He's starting to go on lots of dates. But then when we meet Oswald, who had the same conditions, he's kind of shocked because Oswald doesn't have all the problems that he did when he still had the condition. Everyone loves Oswald. Oswald is very confident. He's very outgoing. He's good with women. He's been married. He has a child. He's successful in life. And Edward begins to really envy the man that is like he used to be. And so again, like The Substance, it's about a lot of the perceptions of youth and beauty and those things, but also like The Substance, it's about how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And like I said, there's a lot of comedy throughout this, a lot of laughs, both intentional and unintentional. I really ended up enjoying it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the last 2/3 of this movie. The first act, the first third, is painfully slow. And it's painful on purpose because you are sitting with a very lonely Edward and nothing is going good in this guy's life, dude. It sucks so bad. It is difficult to get into. And he's a man who is very obviously insecure about this very obvious insecurity on his face. And when you wear your insecurity and it's the thing that bothers you the most, it is so impossible to get through it. I think a lot of people can relate to that. That's a lot of the reason it feels like The Substance, right? It's about how you look. And if only I could look better, then things would work out. But A Different Man is secretly, like The Substance, it's about Riz, man. It's about the sauce. Because Edward doesn't have it. And Guy thinks he has it. When he finally strips down and he looks like Sebastian Stan, he thinks, I got this worked out. But then he goes and tries to be an actor. He still can't do it. And then Oswald walks into the picture, a man who genuinely has this thing. And he's got sauce, dude. He's got so much Riz. He's funny. Like, he's got quick lines. Like, he's witty. Everybody takes to him in the room. Everybody loves Oswald. And Guy is dying because he's like, why don't people like me? I finally accomplished the thing. I look like they want me to look. What's the deal? And it's painful and it hurts. But also that first act is slow, and there's not many cuts, and it's a pretty simple soundtrack too. So your whole first act is a lot of like sitting with tough feelings and realizing that this guy Edward is like so alone. And when Ingrid comes in, it's good, but you still kind of pity him and you wrestle with these feelings as an audience member. And then once you get to act 2, when things start kicking off, when the transformation happens, we're going to see a play, like things start to move. And by the end of the movie, it's moving almost too fast. Like we're almost like roller coaster off the track going so fast. I like there's some things that happen here that genuinely shocked me watching the movie. And I think it's all thoughtful. And I think it says it maybe better than The Substance does in the way that it's such the kinetic relationship between the audience and Oswald and Edward and this disfigurement like is a lot more one-to-one because Oswald is somebody who genuinely has this, but it does not have the energy of The Substance, and it does not have Coralie Farge's like razor sharp editing, and it doesn't quite have that. It's not as sexy as The Substance. In fact, it's less sexy on purpose.
Right. That first act is slow. I appreciate it more now, especially Sebastian Stan, because so much of his character is just kind of how he holds himself. Like Edward just looks scared and timid all the time. Like he moves really slowly. He's just like he's hunched over, and he's not. And that's almost as impressive as the makeup part of it is because like Sebastian Stan is Sebastian Stan. He's the Winter Soldier. He's a very like handsome guy, and now he's playing this very like timid, scared, insecure person. He plays him so well, and you see that insecurity throughout the whole film, even after he becomes a different man and becomes, has the better face. So the performance is so good. And there's really brilliant foreshadowing in this movie. Edward is dealing with a leak in his apartment. There's the ceiling is dripping, and this hole in his ceiling is just getting bigger and bigger, and it's just slowly rotting. And it's a good metaphor for what's happened with Edward, because he's got, like I said, he's got problems on the inside, and they're getting worse, and he's letting them fester, and he's not addressing those things. He thinks it's all about his appearance. If only my face didn't look like this, everything would be right in my life. So yeah, the performances are really stunning.
Yeah, and it's a dark comedy too. And while I think it's at least lean on laughs in the first half, like it does get going. I think if you're looking for it, there's definitely some laughs to be had here. It's not the only metaphor in the movie either, I should say. Like the act of performance, right? Performing for others, and the way Ingrid puts on a play that is her former life, and she's directing 2 people in it. And one of them is Guy, who's playing Edward, who he actually was previous, though she won't admit to that. Uniquely, her stand-in in the play is of a different race, which I don't really understand, but I thought was unique. It was like it's not just somebody who looks like you, it's somebody who looks drastically different from Ingrid, which was interesting. Then Oswald walks in, and like the power struggle there is weird, and you kind of still feel bad for Guy, but also he's being an ass. So like it's interesting, and it's got a lot to say, and I definitely didn't get it all on first pass, but I am glad I watched it. We watched it on Hulu, I think is where it's available now. So light on score. Visuals are real simple, almost looks like it's shot on film, and a little claustrophobic, I should say. But I think that's appropriate for Edward and Guy, because that's kind of the space you're trapped in, right? Like it's tight and it's small and difficult. Any other thoughts or recommendations, Andy?
I actually did kind of enjoy the score. It is kind of a mystery, because Edward ends up doing a whole lot of stalking in this movie eventually,
Yeah.
so it kind of has that kind of soundtrack. Uh, but I think I really appreciated the themes in that the movie absolutely does acknowledge that yes, your appearance matters a lot. They're trying to be actors in this, especially at the beginning, and that has a lot to do with your appearance, but then it also acknowledges that there are internal things that are important to address as well. So I think I found the themes really fascinating. Like I said, it reminded me of The Substance, but kind of saying a different thing and in a very different way. Really good performances. I think I'm ready for recommendations.
Andy, would you recommend A Different Man?
Yeah, overall, I would. I really enjoyed it. It is a little slow in the beginning, but it has really good performances. It's really funny. It surprised me how funny it was. And it has some really interesting themes about self worth and our appearance, and how those things are correlated and how they can change, and society. It's chewing on a lot. So, highly recommend. It's available on streaming now. Hulu, you said.
Yeah, that's where I watched it over on Hulu. Yeah, A Different Man's a good time. I think I'd recommend it for like the people who like a good slow burn A24 feature, right? Like, not for everyone. I know a lot of people who would start this movie and fall asleep halfway through it, right? Or they'd be like, "This is a bummer, dude. This is a downer." Like, you're definitely looking for somebody who seeking a little bit of bold cinema. But Aaron Schimberg ain't too bad. He wrote and directed it. I'm curious to see what he does next. And Sebastian Stan rocks. And I'm hoping, God willing, we see a little bit more of Adam Pearson, dude. He's actually really great in this movie. We'll see. Time will tell. But Different Man, not too shabby. And that's Off Script episode 280. My God. Recording here is a little shorter because we get to insert a cool segment from earlier, but I realized this is probably one of our longest episodes to date, inadvertently, and I think we learned a lot about each other. More importantly, we learned a lot about ourselves. Andy, what are we watching next week?
So we'll be returning next month, because it'll be February, with Companion, the horror movie starring Sophie Thatcher and Zach Quaid. Looks like a lot
Jack
of
Quaid.
fun. Been here. Yeah. Sorry,
Jack Quaid. Yeah, that's fine. You're there.
And heard a lot of good things. Saw a friend who went to a sneak preview of it, had good things to say, and then we'll be taking a look at something streaming to be decided. There's a lot of things out. These are both in theaters or streaming, so check for Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, Queer, Seed of the Sacred Fig. A lot of the Oscar stuff is out now and has wide release. So if you're looking to catch up on those will be available this weekend. But for next weekend, Companion and something on streaming.
Yes. If you enjoyed the show today, if you like what we're doing here on Off Script, hot takes on the Oscar noms segment, let us know in the comments below. I'm sure there's a like button somewhere around where you're watching this. If you're one of our audio listeners, you can rate and review the podcast, of course. You can check us out on YouTube, where we get a lot of exciting things going on and new individual segments. Sometimes maybe early, maybe sometimes. We'll just have to see. Over on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the usual social media places. You can follow us over there. You can leave us correspondence at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com as email for you kids out there. And you can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com, for more interviews and press segments and other exciting stuff we got going on. Come check it out. Come hang out with your boys. And as always, thanks for watching Off Script episode 280. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.